All right. I believe we are live. Happy Friday, everyone. You made it through the week. Nick Marro here with Smitty, as always, to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We are here with Occupy Fantasy, the model you see on the screen here. That is behind the paywall. Check the links in the description below to get access to this data that updates in real time as injury news is breaking and all that good stuff. Eight gamer tonight. DK finally seems to have given in, and they're playing full 8 game slates, right? We don't have to worry about two different sites playing two different slates. We do have to worry about FanDuel even working. Sounds like they're refunding people right now, though, which is a good thing. But yeah, Smitty, how you feeling about this slate right now? And I didn't look at DK yet today. It is 8 games on both sites, correct?
Yeah, it is. I think it's a pretty good slate. Personally, I'm going to be on late swapping for FanDuel, so I prefer them to have those games. And it
Mhm.
just gives you more of an edge if you're on top of news. You have an extra late swap set. So personally, I prefer having those late games. I know some people don't, but some of
Um,
us do.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. But I will say the one takedown I had this year was on a DK slate where it chopped off the 2 late games. And I had a ton of the latest game on DK, but if I was on FanDuel, it wouldn't have cashed. So sometimes things work out. But yeah, man, happy to break this down with you. Some interesting spots for news throughout. Unlike yesterday, I think there's more than enough games here that we could probably just focus on the main injury spots, then go position by position. But yeah, let's talk through a few of these things. I want to start with my Nets here. I get the sweatshirt on today. Really excited for this game against the Sixers. I'm half kidding. But yeah, I mean, the weird thing here is we got Claxton back, but FanDuel, for whatever reason, decided not to price him up. So we sort by FanDuel value. We see Claxton at the top here, 3,500. Probably doesn't play 30 minutes, but I don't think he needs to at that price. I mean, we got a bunch of value centers. Portland's still no Aiton, so we got our boy Klingon, we got Williams. Boston has no Horford or Porzingis, so Kata looks good. You could maybe even get to Cornette, but I'm having trouble getting away from Claxton at this price. I guess just kind of give me your take on this FanDuel price, and if I don't know, are you matching the field going over? I mean, there's a lot of good centers on this slate. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, like whenever we get something like this, we tend to just want to take advantage of it as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. We just don't have like a ton of min price value on FanDuel like Claxton. The only hard
Right.
part is he takes up your center spot and you only get one, but I expect him to be really chalky and I like it personally. We have him for 25 minutes. If he plays 25, you're looking great. If he plays 20, you're still probably okay. So I think it's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, man, I tend to agree. And I will say, I mean, MB's currently questionable. If he's in, I don't know that it necessarily matters. Like, Claxton's actually had some really good games against Embiid for whatever that's worth. Embiid playing kind of banged up. So I don't know that he's 100% the nightmare matchup that he is when he's at his best. At the same time, we could talk about the 76ers a little bit. I mean, over on their side, Embiid is questionable. No Paul George, no Kyle Lowry. We did just get word from Nick Nurse, who likes to lie more than any coach, that Maxey should see more minutes tonight. But yeah, with Paul George out, like I guess the question we're going to be asked is how much Jared McCain are we interested in? He's kind of priced where he should be now. Again, Max, you're probably going to see a few more minutes, but with Paul George already out, Kyle Lowry out as well. I mean, he's going to be a heavy part of this rotation. We have him with 36 minutes, so even if the usage is down, I do think he's a pretty decent play here.
Yeah, I agree. He's priced appropriately, but he does flash a ceiling, kind of like I would compare him to Cam Thomas.
Mm.
If he gets hot, he's just going to keep shooting, and it seems like he has the green light. So I don't think he'll stop. He's just a pure scorer, so I like his
Yeah, man.
upside.
No, man, I'm with you, and I like that comparison. As far as DFS goes, it makes a lot of sense. Anything else from this game worth talking about? I mean, if Embiid is out, I'm guessing Yabusele probably gets the start at center again. I mean, he is dirt cheap. Not that we need more value at center. Only played 19 minutes, but almost had 30 DK points his last time out. He's someone you probably want to mix in. They could go back to Drummond, who's been playing absolutely terribly. I don't know. They have him capped around 15 minutes now. It seems that. That just hasn't been going well, but I don't know. I'm fine getting to some Schroeder, Cam, both Cams. Honestly, they've both been playing well. I'm not as interested in some of these secondary plays for the Nets with Claxton coming back, but we have seen Wilson and Williams both okay off the bench. But again, we want to save some of these spots to pivot, right? As more of this news breaks after lock. But let me just ask you: is there anything else from this game you're kind of keyed in on? And do you have a lean? Do you think Embiid goes here?
I don't know. I kind of think he just sits this one out the way his season's been going, but maybe he plays. Maybe he takes what Maxie said kind of personal and goes out there. If he plays, I think he's pretty interesting. If his ownership stays around like under 10%, I think he's a pretty solid play. The minutes have been there, the production hasn't, but I think he looks okay. And either way, like you mentioned, Yabusele, I have some interest there at 3,600 power
Mhm.
forward eligibility on DraftKings. I think he looks pretty solid.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And we should have that news soon. Again, this is one of the first games at lock, so we should get that. I mean, he is a game time decision still. I feel like usually they rule him out by now. So I'm kind of thinking maybe he plays, but like I said, it doesn't change much for me. I will say at very low ownership, he's fine, obviously, to get to in tournaments. There's just a lot of the best values at center. So I'll kind of transition to the next game here. I know I said I wasn't going to go game by game, but I think it makes sense for at least these first few. So we get the Celtics here taking on the Wizards. We get a nice 16-point football spread here. And yeah, no Al Horford, no Porzingis, no Mosquita projected to get the start at center again. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, this is obviously as good of a matchup as it gets. I feel like we always have this conversation when the Celtics are playing bad teams. Are we afraid of the blowout? Does it even matter? Like we've seen Tatum hit 60 fantasy points in 3 quarters. We've seen Brown and White have similar games. I mean, I'm not getting too much Drew, but the price does tempt me. I like Kada. I think on DK he makes a lot of sense as long as he's starting. But on FanDuel, I mean, point per dollar, I do think Claxton's the better play. But what's your overall take on Boston here? Because obviously this is a great matchup. One of the highest totals on the board as well at 238 points. Oh, you're muted.
My bad.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I think Boston looks good here. They have to win this game, and they have to win by a lot for the point differential in the NBA Cup. So I think they look really good. I'm underweight on their main players like Tatum and Brown, but I'm overweight on Derek White, Kada, Sam Hauser, Drew. I think all of them look really good. But I mean, Tatum and Brown definitely look good as well. I kind of prefer Brown just for his price tag on DraftKings specifically, where on FanDuel I'd probably rather be with Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the prices between the two sites, I'm right there with you. I do like Derek White a lot as well. I mean, he's priced kind of where he should be, but obviously plenty of upside on him. And good shout out from our boy Van Negro Jones here. Wizards are in trouble, blow up by halftime, load up on Pritchard. I was going to bring up Pritchard. I actually think him and his ownership, it's kind of crazy to me. Obviously, the Wizards aren't the biggest team, especially with a few guys banged up right now, Bagley and others. Pritchard, we've seen he's kind of this hybrid. He's going to be in there in games that are close, but when they blow teams out, he should get run into the fourth quarter. Earlier in the season, that wasn't necessarily the case, but I don't know. He's been kind of touch and go lately. I'm very comfortable getting to him as guard value again. A lot of the value on the slate comes at center. So sub 5% Pritchard, sign me up for that one. Good shout out there, Jones. Um, let's see. We got a few other comments in chat. Let me just touch on these before we keep moving along. Spaniard greetings. Landon, what's up? Unicorn, how's it going? And Spaniard, he's been struggling lately, just inconsistent, driving the struggle bus. I mean, yeah, man, that happens to everyone. You're going to be hot, you're going to be cold. I mean, I don't know. Just try to lower your volume when you're struggling, I'd say, or maybe just focus on single entry contests. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would have to know what you're really playing to kind of give you a pep talk and what you should be doing. But yeah, man, it comes in swings. I mean, even the content providers here. I mean, we all go through hot and cold streaks. I was super hot 2 weeks ago. This week's been kind of eh. But yeah, I think we're all looking to have a good one tonight. Heath, amateur, not going to pull you guys up on the screen just for the sake of time. Definitely see you there. We got a question from Power here, and I think he's asking about availability. Um, question is Jokic. Hold on, it just disappeared. So I'm trying to pull up comments, and I don't know why they went away. Anyway, this comment might be stuck on the screen, but regardless, question is on Jokic. Luca posted him and Jokic walking together at Ball Arena. Um, Wait, so is Ball Arena? That's where they are tonight, right? So Jokic just had a baby. It's expected he should be back tonight. Um, I think last I checked, he's listed as questionable. I don't know if he even shoot around. Do you have any news on this? Any coach speak from out in Denver? Because Obviously, this is massive news if he's not going to be in.
No, I just think being back home, I just kind of expect them. I expect him to play.
Yeah, I do too. And he's had a bunch of days off. And I mean, hey, new father narrative. That's been a good one to chase at times. Maybe he's going to have a huge game here. Definitely a good matchup against Dallas without Luca. What else we got going on? Um, Yeah, Spaniard. I'll touch on this again. You playing single entry, losing a lot, you start second guessing yourself. I mean, process over results, and that's the main thing. As long as your guys are playing the minutes, I mean, just check your lineup, see if they're shooting poorly. If you're playing the same contest night to night, look what's winning those contests. Check out the ownerships, and try to identify patterns. I mean, that's all you can do. But I wouldn't say reinvent the wheel just because you're having a rough couple weeks. If anything, just lower your volume so it's not really hurting you night to night. You don't want to go to sleep sad because your DFS results never play more than you can afford to lose. But it comes and goes, man. That's all I can really say about that. Henry here, Jalen Johnson going for 50 and 50 rebounds. You heard it here first. Maybe combined 50 fantasy points. I like that. But we'll get into that one in a bit. And what about Irving on FanDuel? Again, both sites did a good job pricing him up with Luka out. Usually this would be the smash play of all smash plays, but pushing 10K on both sites, I mean, fine in tournaments. Definitely not a core or cash play, though. Do you have any other outside takes on this Kyrie price?
No, I think he's just appropriately priced.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, guys. Got through all of chat, so just trying to pick up where we left off. Is there anything from the Wizards you like? For me, not really. Again, they're running really deep rotations right now. They got Malcolm Brogdon back in there. Still kind of thin in the front court, but Kuzma's back. Sar's getting minutes. All kind of priced where they should be. I don't know that we need to dig into much for Washington.
No, the only player I'm getting to from there is a few shots on Joe Val.
I can see it. At the same time, yeah, his minutes are so all over the place, but back to back games over 30 fantasy points at his price, I mean, definitely wouldn't hate that in your lineups. So moving right along here, Curry's probable, so we don't really need to dig too deep into Golden State. I will say Jackson Davis looks fine on both sides. On FanDuel, you have power forward eligibility with him. 4,700 makes some sense. On the other side, though, the Pelicans still pretty banged up. Pull up their injury report here. Scrolling. Yeah, so for the Pels, no Alvarado. Hawkins is back. I think that's very interesting. Ingram is available. No Herbert Jones. No CJ McCollum. Yves Missy is questionable. Zion and Murray are both out. Zion got a new back tattoo. That doesn't really help us in DFS. For whatever reason, that was all over my timeline today. But yeah, man, this game's kind of interesting. I do like Jackson Davis as a power forward play just because there's not a ton of value there on FanDuel. I think there's better value centers on DK. But on the Pelican side, I mean, Hawkins's price is definitely tempting, at least on FanDuel. I don't know if we can count on him for minutes. 4,400, though, I mean, that's just wrong. We have him for 26. I think if he's playing 26, probably gets value. Again, a guy we've seen with a ton of usage, doing a lot of ball handling with Alvarado, Murray, and McCollum out of the lineup. Ingram is Ingram, excuse me. Kerr's definitely going to kind of key in on him defensively. Going to be seeing a lot of Draymond and others, so not the best matchup for him. But with all these other guys out, I think he's fine. Trey Murphy, another play, is probably going to be popular. But yeah, man, I think this game's going a little bit overlooked. But what's your take, I guess, on Golden State and these Pels? I mean, is this a spot you see yourself getting too much?
I'm getting to a little bit on the Pell side. I like Murphy, specifically on DraftKings. I think he looks good. FanDuel too. He has good eligibility, small forward, shooting guard. And then you mentioned Hawkins. I think he looks good on FanDuel. Fills the shooting guard position. He's just too cheap, especially if we have him for I think it was 26 minutes. If
26.
he plays 26 minutes, he looks really solid.
Yeah, definitely. I will say this: Missy is questionable. If he's out, maybe we get Robinson Earl starting at center. Not that we need more value centers, but yeah, pretty decent game. Was there anything on Golden State you were getting too heavily?
Like you mentioned, TJD on FanDuel. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm with you. You can always mix in Curry. There's tons of good guards to pay up for, but he could spike a ceiling. Not a priority, but someone you could definitely mix into tournaments. Draymond's been pretty consistent. Fine getting the maybe Wiggins, but again, don't want to spend too much time on this one. We got a few other spots to talk about here. So yeah, another game with a little bit of injury news, but a whole lot of ownership. We got the Hawks and the Bulls here. So the Hawks No real injuries for them. This is about as healthy as they've been all season. They just got Bogdanovich back. Daniels is obviously healthy. Jalen Johnson's back. Both centers available. So this rotation's deeper. I'm kind of surprised by the Bogdanovich ownership. I know what he's capable of. I know it's a great matchup, but 30% on FanDuel seems a little bit insane to me. I would rather go to Hawkins for about half that. But where are you at on the Hawks right now?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Bogdanovich, I just think that's pretty out there for someone that's pretty scoring dependent. But
Hmm.
overall, this game is one of my higher owned games. I mean, the total's massive.
Yep.
I have a ton of Vooch, Io, Levine, Kobe White, even some Trey. I think this matchup's just probably the nut matchup of the slate, but the ownership's definitely there. So if you wanted to avoid it and hope for something to go wrong, I mean, you definitely could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. I think I like it. The game I certainly like, but I'm gonna try to avoid some of the higher owned plays. I like Trey. Excuse me. I like Jalen Johnson. Better on DK, where he's not only cheaper but also lower owned. I think he's a really, really good tournament play over there. Then talking about Chicago, I mean, the only guy out for them that's significant um, is Patrick Williams. No Sonogo, no Lonzo Ball, but he's been out all year. I mean, but yeah, for Patrick Williams being out, I was a little bit surprised to see how popular AO was. I do like him at his price, but all the other guards are available. I mean, they have Levine, they have White, they have Giddy. They all look solid. I'm fine getting to him, but I think it's Torrey Craig who probably gets the start here. Craig, not typically a guy we really want to play too much in DFS because he doesn't do a ton when he's on the floor. But yeah, I think he's cheap enough to maybe consider. But yeah, I know you mentioned you like AO, but I'm a little bit put off by this ownership. I don't know. Talk me into him. I'm happy to be wrong if I am.
We have him for 31 minutes. I just think if he plays 31 minutes at 5K, he looks like a really solid play, especially with a 280 total or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, he has played 30 in back to back games. He's been shooting terribly, but both of those matchups, Milwaukee and Detroit, are better matchups than this one. I mean, Detroit's defense has actually come a long way in transition. This matchup with Atlanta is excellent. So I get it. Again, I'm just looking at the ownerships, trying to get a little bit different. I love Levine here. I mean, he keeps going off. The thing with him is he has guardian forward eligibility. You mentioned Vooch. I think he's under owned. Again, just tough to get to too many centers tonight. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I mean, what's the total? 247 and a half.
Yeah.
Um, that is beefy. Definitely happy to get to a lot of this game. So yeah, no major injury news there other than Williams, but it's enough to kind of open some things up for the Bulls and just such a great matchup for Atlanta. Taking a quick look at chat here. Oh yeah, these are cup games. Yeah, amateur. This is huge, and Smitty mentioned it earlier. I forgot this initially, but these are the cup games, so point differential matters for these teams. So even if there's blowouts, they could leave their guys in longer. Really want to win by 50, 60 because those are the tiebreakers to get into those semifinals. Unicorn saying Kuzma's cheap. I mean, if you were going to play a Wizard, I don't mind Kuzma. I think he's a little bit cheaper than he will be once he plays a few weeks healthy. But yeah, at the same time, I don't know that we want to go too crazy there. Power with a hot take. I don't know how hot of a take, but he thinks Quentin Jackson starts over Shepard. Temper Corey Craig's minutes. They'll need AO on Trey. Yeah, that's a good call. Again, I don't want to play Craig. I just wanted to mention I thought he was going to start. But Quentin Jackson. So let's talk about Indiana. They're getting a bunch of guys back tonight, right? Um, Let me pull them up. So they're taking on Milwaukee. We'll go right to this game next. So thank you for the transition there. But Naismith, Nemhard, Jackson are still out. Shepard is questionable. Jarvis Walker is questionable. And Tristan Newton is questionable. He's a G leaguer, though. I'm not really going to think too much about Newton. But yeah, so we've seen a lot of different looks from the Pacers. And whenever you're dealing with Rick Carlisle, that's kind of what you're going to have to deal with, unfortunately. But if all these guys are out, I mean, McConnell off the bench looks okay. His prices come up. It took him kind of some extra fourth quarter run to get there last time out, but we could see that again here. Quentin Jackson is the guy that Power's shouting out. I don't know that I want to get to him necessarily. Again, not that we have a ton of great value on the slate. It's just tough to trust anything that is coming off the bench or even starting for Rick Carlisle if it's not like one of the staples of his roster, Halliburton, Turner, Siakam, Mathurin. Um, I don't know. Do you have a take on Jackson? I feel like it's not a play I really look too deeply into. I thought Shepard would be back tonight, but 5:30 injury report. All these guys are still questionable.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just at 4K, he kind of has to do a lot to get there on this big of a slate. Even if he starts, his fantasy production isn't really there, so not really a play I'm looking to.
What do you like from the Pacers here?
From the Pacers, I think you could get to Halliburton. He looks fine. Siakam looks fine. I'm getting the most of Halliburton and Turner right now. I like Turner. They're going to need him to play minutes. This is a big
Mhm.
matchup. They're going to need to play big. If he can stay out of foul trouble, I think he looks really good here.
Yeah, man, I'm with it. I will say I actually like Siakam a little bit. I just think he's a bit under owned for what his ceiling could be. Again, better matchup for the guards here, but at the same time, I mean, the Milwaukee defense has been kind of disappointing in general. On the Milwaukee side, no Chris Middleton still, obviously, no other major injury news. They did get Dame back, who's getting some decent ownership over on FanDuel. We're seeing Giannis very popular tonight. I think it's because you have that forward eligibility. A lot of the values coming in at the other positions. I like him here. I do think he's kind of overpriced with Dame back, but at the same time, I mean, his ceiling is just tremendous in this spot. Really can't argue with anyone playing him. 50% own, though. Are you matching the field, under the field? Where are you at on Giannis right now?
I'm going to be way under that number. I prefer Dame. I just think
Mhm.
on these bigger slates, I'd rather get to these mid-range plays that can go for 50 to 60 than Giannis that you're hoping he gets you 80 on this slate.
Yeah.
So just a lineup construction, I prefer paying down, which FanDuel does make it a little easier to get to Giannis, but I still just prefer going to Dame.
I like that call, man. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you need a lot out of Giannis on a slate like this. I think he's a good play in cash games. I think he makes sense on FanDuel. But in tournaments, 50%, it's very easy to just go elsewhere. You could play safer value plays than some of the other stuff we're talking about. So, with you on that. Anything else in this game, I guess, we're talking about before we move on?
That's pretty much it. I think Brooke is fine to get to, Brooke Lopez,
Mm.
but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, Brook has had some huge, huge games lately. He carried me into cashing the other night. So don't mind getting there again. Just center's so stacked,
Yep.
especially on FanDuel. It's kind of difficult to use up that spot. We do have some injury news in this next one. We got the Blazers and the Rockets. Still no DeAndre Ayton for Portland. Jeremy Grant questionable. Scoot Henderson questionable. Anthony Simon questionable. Earlier, when you were talking about kind of pivoting for some of these late games, I think this is one of them, right? If all these guys are out, Shady on Sharpson playing really well. I think we could get to him. Delano Blanton, the model absolutely hates him right now. But if we get Scoot, Grant, and or Simons out, I think he climbs up this data a little bit. And he's been really solid even in limited minutes, so I don't mind getting to him. But yeah, earlier in the day, Robert Williams was super chalky with all this other value opening up at center. Ownership's come down, still pretty popular on FanDuel. We've seen what Clingan can do. I do think Williams, as he sees more minutes, is probably the better play as far as like the season goes, but just keep an eye on ownership between those two. But yeah, man, just three questionable tags on three of their bigger contributors, and they're already without Aiton. So not a good matchup against Houston, but at the same time, this is that NBA Cup night, right? So maybe these guys play into the fourth regardless. What's your take on Portland right now?
Yeah, I think Portland looks okay right now, but they'll look a lot better if some of these guys are out. I expect Grant to at least be out. He got a late Q tag with an illness tag, so never
Mhm.
ends well most of the time. So I think you could pre-plan for Grant being out, which could kind of give you some edge here. But I think just saving some roster spots for these later games makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And with Grant out, I would want to get to some shady on Sharp. I was really heavy on him the other night with Simon's out. I think Scoot was in, Grant was out. But yeah, terrible first half, but he started going off in the second half. He's a guy who's going to take a ton of shots regardless, so I don't mind getting to him. But again, Portland's kind of tough to talk about until we get some of this news. Let me just ask you, though, how are you handling the center situation here on both sites? Seems like they're both more popular on DK. No surprise because you could play two. Williams has forward eligibility on DK, which is kind of crazy. Wish we had that over on FanDuel. But yeah, these guys both look fine. But I mean, again, there's just so many centers, right?
Yep. I'm about with the field on both. I think Robert Williams looks better just because of the power forward eligibility, but
Mhm.
I think they both look like pretty solid plays.
Nice, man. Yeah, and they're taking on Houston here, a very talented and big center, offensive minded Alperen Sengun, getting a lot of love on both sides. Fred Van Fleet getting some love. Jalen Green, his prices come way down after a few bad shooting games. He's of someone I'm definitely circling here. And Tari Eason, Jabari Smith both getting love. I mean, I don't know. I think one or the other probably has a good game. It's nice to see Jabari still getting minutes. But yeah, man, Houston's another tough team who's kind of project in terms of who's tough to project, excuse me, in terms of rotations. No significant injuries here. No Cam Whitmore. Not that he's been a huge piece of this rotation yet this season. How are you handling Houston?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm getting to a lot of Houston. They're some of their players are just underpriced. Like
Right.
I hate to mention Dylan Brooks, but he's just underpriced at 3,800 on DraftKings. I'm getting to Dylan Brooks. Seems gross, but I think he looks okay. Jalen Green's too cheap on both sides. I think he looks really good. And then Sengun looks like a good center play, but there's a ton of centers to play, so not can't really call him a priority, but I think he's a solid play.
Yeah, man, right there with you. Jalen Green, probably my favorite. The field's right there with it, though, so can't really use that spot to get too different. But yeah, good game to target. Obviously, tough matchup for the Blazers. Great one for Houston. But with this being the NBA Cup, maybe it doesn't matter as much. Let's check out chat before we get into these late games. Not going to pull everything back up, but I'll talk through at least every comment. Jones doubling back on J Val. Just know there's a chance Bagley's back. I mean, yeah, if Bagley was back, it could eat into his minutes. The thing with Joe Val is he's never going to play a ton of minutes, right? Like you
No.
just want that ceiling in 20, and I don't know that he gives up more than 20 here. Buddy Hield's revenge game. I don't know that I'm necessarily chasing it, but sure, why not? Maybe he takes a few extra shots. Hawkins is back. I think we covered a lot of this stuff. We got a question for Beat on. Favorite DK play under 4K, and with the model up, I'll show you guys how to do that here. So sort by OF index, take the slider down to 4K, and we'll see what we're getting, and we can kind of talk through that. This is 42. My mouse is super sensitive, but yeah. So Trace Jackson Davis looks good. Dylan Brooks, Luke Cornett. Any of these cheap guys standing out for you? I think of this group, I'm probably most comfortable with Jackson Davis, but having to use the center spot's not ideal. So our boy Dylan Brooks, who's certainly not our boy, but point per dollar, he does look pretty good here.
Yeah, I think Dylan Brooks or I like Amir Coffey and Yabusele some too, and Hauser.
Yeah, I think those are all good calls. Hauser going pretty overlooked compared to some of the other Boston pieces. I will say, I mean, I think we want Jaden Hardy to get more run with Kyrie out. If he does, obviously he could spike some upside. He's another one I'd maybe mix in. But if you want to go safe, I think it's Jackson Davis, then Brooks.
Yep.
Let's see. Please look at Giannis against Indy. He crushes them. I'm locking him in. Yeah, I know he's kind of had a pretty good time there for the most part, even though they've dropped some games to them. Tends to do what he wants against Turner. I mean, he's popular. Obviously, he's Giannis. Damn good play. Anyone worth paying up for? Is it just the guards? We've kind of talked through this a little bit, but yeah, I think Giannis looks good. If Jokic is in, you could play him at low ownership. It's just he's so damn expensive. I don't know that I can get there with much confidence. Trey Young looks good to me. And yeah, I don't mind getting to Tatum where he's owned. Again, we usually see him get 50 to 60, regardless of blowout. And again, NBA Cup. Not sure I care too much, but who are your favorite pay ups tonight?
Yeah, I like Trey and Dame if you want to consider him a pay up, but Tatum and Embiid are worth some shots as well.
Yeah, if Embiid's in, I mean, at that ownership, I definitely think that makes some sense. Colin likes Craig. I mean, yeah, low fantasy points per minutes, but the minutes are there. Hits a couple threes, he can get there. And yeah, Fred Van Fleet, definitely a good tournament pivot off of Jalen Green. I like Jalen Green because he shoots more, but at half the ownership makes sense. Jose, how many priorities on this slate? When we build the final build at the end of the show, Jose, we'll kind of talk about top priorities. I think right now it's tough. On FanDuel for me, definitely Claxton. I think you do want some Boston. Um, I don't know. That Atlanta Chicago game just looks amazing. I'd say Levine's probably the core play there, but anyone you're like making a major priority, I guess, just to answer this for Jose.
No, that's pretty much it. I just think that Atlanta Chicago game, like you mentioned, Levine looks good. There's just a lot of good plays in that game.
Absolutely. So now we're moving into these late games. We got a couple of them here. So one's going to be tricky. One, I mean, obviously Luke is out. That's a lot to talk about, but at the same time, the prices have all adjusted. Yeah, so we'll start with Dallas. So no Luca, no Dante Action still. No Brandon Williams. Not that that matters too much right now. But yeah, Kyrie looks good here. The thing is, he's up 1K on both sites, kind of price where he should be now. I think he's fine to get to, especially if he stays low owned, but he's just on the same tier of these other pay up guards, the Trays, I don't know who else I'm forgetting. But yeah, I think he's good, just not a priority like he would be if we got this news later in the day or yesterday. PJ Washington, eh. Derek Lively, I don't know. There's enough good value centers that I don't want to play the Gafford Lively roulette game tonight. I'm interested in Clay here, and I almost never like Clay, right? But I think if someone's going to have to take up this usage, if someone's going to kind of have to emerge in this offense other than Kyrie, it's probably Clay Thompson. Scoring dependent, so the floor is low. Don't necessarily need to worry about that in tournaments, but sub 6K, I'm kind of surprised he's not more popular here. I get it's not a great matchup. Am I crazy to really load up on Clay tonight?
No, I don't mind this. I don't mind this spot for Clay. I think he looks pretty good. Just probably drawing too low of ownership, especially with his eligibility at shooting guard, small forward. I think he looks pretty solid.
Yeah, man, and I'm never a Clay guy. I'm surprised he's not more popular here. And like I get that it's a bad matchup. I get that most of these guys are priced up, but yeah, they kind of left Clay where he was, moved the price up for Washington Kyrie. I mean, we'll always talk about Jaden Hardy whenever one of these guards are out. Really talented kid, could score points in bunches. J Kid though kind of has a love-hate relationship with him, trying to make him more of a complete guard. So you can never trust those minutes. But if he starts, definitely a good piece of value. Fine mixing in some Grimes if he starts, and or Najee Marshall. Marshall's kind of limited though with Washington back, even with Luca out. But all of Dallas is low on. Kyrie 10% on DK. I get it. I mean, it's a bad matchup, but yeah, man, are you getting to any Mavs here?
Not really a ton. I kind of thought I would, but they're just kind of priced correctly. I have Grimes more than anyone, which I'm pretty good with as long as he starts. I think he looks really solid. But especially Denver, I'm not really getting to any Denver. I mean, they're okay GPP plays. It's just they're overpriced. They're all priced for Jokic being out.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Their price for Jokic being out, Jokic is probably back tonight. If Jokic were to suddenly sit, which I don't think is going to happen, again, he just had a baby. He wasn't hurt or anything. Should be good to go. And again, this is a good matchup for front courts. Totally fine getting to him if you want to at his price. But yes, Aaron Gordon's still out, but all these guys are overpriced. Like Murray's price is probably going to come down a little bit. Porter for sure. Brown, Watson, they've been playing well. Westbrook had another triple double, but with Jokic back, I don't think we can go there. So yeah, I wanted to get more of this game. I like having exposure to these late games. But yeah, Dallas, Denver, outside of maybe trying to get heavy on Clay, I don't know that I'm going to be on much here. Um, all right, we got one more game to talk through, and then we'll kind of give you guys some general thoughts. If you got questions, feel free to get them in. We'll also give you that build over on DK with kind of our core options. But yeah, last game of the night, we got Sacramento at the Los Angeles Clippers. Not who's out tonight for the Kings is the news. It's who's back. So they've been playing without Sabonis, without DeRozan. Both of them are off the injury report entirely. Should be good to go here. Still no Malik Monk. But yeah, kind of similar to Denver. I mean, some of these guys are priced up to where they're not really as playable, and now they're getting a bunch of bodies back. I don't know. I kind of want to play some DeRozan here. I think if there's anyone for Sacramento I get to, it's him. But at the same time, again, similar situation in Denver, all kind of overpriced now. What's your take on the Kings? Do you see yourself getting too much of them?
No, I feel the same way as I do about Denver. They're just priced for these guys out. You could take GPP shots, like you mentioned, DeRozan. I think that's fine. That's pretty much it. I mean, you could still take shots on Fox. The usage just hasn't been as good with DeRozan in the lineup.
Yeah, totally true. And the thing with Fox, I mean, most of the season he's like all the guards tend to be super expensive. Like, or there's a tier of expensive guards. Fox usually sits just below it. He's priced up with the Trays of the world now, so it's kind of tougher for me to get to him. The James Hardens of the world now, and I'll use that to transition here. So still no Norm Powell for the Clippers. Obviously, Kawhi and PJ Tucker not with the team either. Harden looks pretty good. I mean, a little bit cheaper than some of the other guards we're talking about. I'm fine getting to him. Zubac, again, center's loaded tonight. He's been seeing extra usage with no Norm Powell. The popular play here, though, and I get it, is Kevin Porter Jr. He's seen the biggest boost, I think, with Powell out of the lineup. Looks really solid. Chris Dunn has been getting the starts, but he's just kind of given up the usage he was taking those first few games as the starter. I like Porter here. I think he's probably good chalk. Again, we have so much value at center, not a ton at guard. I think Porter is safe enough for me, even though he's playing kind of limited minutes. But what's your take on the Clippers, man? And am I wrong to be over the 20% on FanDuel on Porter?
No, I'm actually getting to quite a bit of Clippers. I think this spot's really good. Pace
Nice.
up spot for him. I do like you mentioned Kevin Porter. I like him. I think Dunn is playable on DraftKings especially, and then Amir Coffey drew the start last time out. The minutes were there. We have him for let me see, 31 minutes. If he plays 31 minutes at 4K, even though he's not the most productive player ever, I think he's a pretty solid play.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And yeah, last year when Kawhi was like kind of healthy, he'd miss. Everyone would rush to play Terrence Mann. Like if you were going to coffee those games, he was usually the right play. And Mann has not been good this year. So I'm happy to get to some Amir Coffee, assuming he starts. I think even if he doesn't, he'll probably play similar minutes to what we're projecting. Derek Jones Jr., kind of another last piece in type value play. But yeah, I do like Porter a lot coming off the bench. Fine getting to some Harden. But yeah, still waiting on that Jokic news in the late games. Could see something else break that we're not expecting. So obviously, having some maneuverability there makes some sense. So let's check out the chat now. See where you guys are at. Again, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps us keep these free videos pumping out to you. Um, yeah, Michael Tyler, ever since Indy stole that ball from Giannis, it's been on. I mean, I think you might be right. Mr. Muted, I think it's because Clay and Irving don't really correlate well. Seems like only one could do well. Well, the thing is, I mean, when Kyrie was on the Nets with Harden, he kind of turned back into a shooting guard. And next to Luca, he kind of turns into a shooting guard. I think he has to play true point more tonight. Will he? I don't know. If he does, I think that creates a lot of opportunities for Clay. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But I don't know, man. I'm happy to play Clay at his price. I think point per dollar probably is more upside, even though Kyrie is obviously the better raw point play. Power, yeah, Giannis chased right after him. That was hilarious. Forgot about that. Obviously, Giannis is Giannis. You don't need a narrative to play him, but all the more reason I'm very comfortable doing it. So for single entry GPPs on FanDuel, is Clax just a lock and move on? So this is an interesting question. Jason Jordan with the follow up. Is Claxton 35 on FanDuel worth a play? So let's talk about Claxton for a minute. So the interesting thing is there are a lot of good value centers tonight on FanDuel. Claxton's my favorite center. And let me refresh just to see if the ownerships come up at all. But I'll say this. I think if I'm playing one lineup, Claxton's in it. I think if I'm playing two or three, I'd probably fade him in one. Just because, again, center, there's just so many great plays at the position. We have Vooch in a tremendous matchup. Keita, really cheap with upside. Um, I don't know. And if you're looking to pay up, obviously there's some good plays up there as well. You mentioned Miles Turner is a good play. I think he's worth mentioning. So yeah, it just kind of depends how many lineups you're playing. If you play Claxton, you're going to need to get different with some other pieces in your lineup. But he is egregiously priced. Like I don't know why they would lower his price to minimum just because he's out. Like usually they just leave these guys where they're normally priced when they're healthy, and then they're unplayable when they're back, which is fine. But yeah, I don't know. Someone just fell asleep at the wheel here on Claxton. So I'll say this: if you're playing one single entry lineup, I'd put him in it. He's my favorite center on FanDuel. What's your take on Claxton, man? Because again, it's tricky on FanDuel with just one center spot.
Yeah, they made this slate harder than it should have been, but you could play the narrative that he fails and play like Akeda or another value center, or instead of paying minimum price, you could go play Jokic or play Embiid or like an
Mhm.
expensive center and just kind of change the whole lineup construction, which I think is pretty interesting. To where even if Claxton goes for 30, but you have Jokic go for 80, I mean, your lineup might still win. So I think it's pretty interesting game theory wise.
Yeah, it definitely makes it tougher. But I'm with you. I like him, but there are other ways to go. And David, yeah, we are talking about FanDuel. Claxton on DK, not really a play tonight at 5,800. B Don, we're not entirely fading Washington. I will say, I did mention if I was getting to anything, it would probably be Kuzma. Let me just pull up his minutes here. So yeah, they've been kind of easing him back in, probably because they're half tanking. 28 minutes for Kuz, terrible matchup. I don't think it's crazy sub 7K. When he's playing his best, we've seen him push 8K on both sides. Not that I'm expecting that anytime soon. But he's okay as the last piece in. I can't say I have love for him to complete that thought. But what's your take on Kuzma, man? I think until he's playing over 30 minutes consistently, even at the discount, it's tough for me to get excited about it.
Yeah, I had been riding him when he came back from injury. I just thought he was too cheap, but I think their goal is just to spread these minutes out. They want to see the young guys play, see who they need to go for in the drafts or transactions, and I just don't know if he's going to get over 30 minutes. So personally,
Yeah.
just not a play I'm really on.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. So yeah, if he's your last guy in, you don't have to rebuild your whole lineup, but at the same time, wouldn't be building around him by any stretch. But a few more minutes here, so let's go ahead and get this build going. I think I want to start with Zach LaVine. Who tonight, I guess, else from that Atlanta Chicago game are you kind of honing in on?
Let's see. We could go cheap with IO or let's see. I know you didn't really like IO as much though.
I mean, I like him. I just don't like the ownership.
Yeah,
But
we
on
could.
DK, I think it was more reasonable. 22 just seems heavy, but again, if this is more like a hybrid cash type build, I'm fine with it. Like, he should do well here. He's just been shooting poorly. The minutes have been there, so we can go with Io. And yeah, Jose, just to answer you, this is probably our favorite game tonight. Okay, so we're left with like 6K per. I would rather put Io at shooting guard and use maybe Trey at point guard if you're cool with it.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, and then we're gonna have to get some value in here. I mean, we have Kata as an option at center, a power forward. Hmm, Robert Williams.
Yeah, could go there.
I mean, I think that's probably the best play there. Are you fine with Kata at center? Is there someone else you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I think Kata's good.
Yeah. So yeah, we can need some chalk here. I think Trey's kind of reasonably owned. 6'4", 6,400 left per player. I think we want to get some kind of later games in now. Who was it on the Clippers? We both kind of like Porter. Maybe we use him for some value.
Yeah, I like that.
Is there anyone else we're missing that you're super bullish on?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean we could go with like Jalen Brown. It's probably a little bit too cheap. That leaves us 6,800. Uh, Not crazy about the spot for Daniels. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's not the play.
And I
If we go
like
up to
Derek
Tate,
White, but
oh, was White right there? I think we were
but you,
100 short.
yeah,
But
just
if we
off.
go with White, that's okay. Yeah, we could go with White, and then I mean, hey, maybe Halliburton.
Yeah,
He's a forward though, so yeah, we just have to flip White. We'd have to move some stuff around, but I think with Levine having dual eligibility, we can make it happen. Embiid is not warming up at his usual time, so yeah, guys, Maxi's going to be a good play here. His minutes should tick up a bit, but Jared McCain's going to look really, really good now. And what else? If
man.
Yabusele starts, like I think he has forward eligibility on both sites.
Yeah,
He's kind of a core play now for sure. If you're looking for a pivot, maybe Caleb Martin's the guy. For me, I would rather just load up on Yabusele, right?
yep. He just got ruled out
Embiid
officially.
did.
Yeah,
Nice. So yeah, I mean, since we're still on, we could plug in Yabusele there. I mean, then what? We go White at guard. Now we're cooking with gas. We got
yeah.
8,700. We go Murray, Sengun. I mean, Sengun's probably the
Good.
logical play there. But yeah, this is a damn good lineup. Obviously, mix things up, guys. We're still waiting on some news, nothing too major. But as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. Slate locks in 30 minutes. Keep an eye on news. We got Jayhawk in the Discord today. If you are a member, should be in there any minute now, kind of breaking down these lineups as they come in. But take care, everyone. Let's crush it tonight. Hope to see some screenshots in the Discord.